Hello and welcome to another special broadcast here on India Today from the front lines of the Israel versus Hamas war. I'm standing here on the beach of the city of Ashkelon. It's still very much a ghost town, completely abandoned. The people have left because this is Israel's capital of rocket attacks. This city bore the brunt of Hamas rockets on October the 7th, and ever since, every single day, multiple rocket attacks continue to happen, and the sirens have just become a part of normal life. Today, I'm here in Ashkelon, Israel, but India Today's Gaurav Sawant also joins me on this live broadcast, but he is back in India. Gaurav, you were among the first Indian journalists to report from the front line here. I've been traveling to many of the places where you and I reported from over the last few days. How does it feel, first of all, to be back home? Israel misses you.
Shiv, it's good to be back home, but that war still rages and is likely to intensify in the days and weeks ahead. Do stay out of harm's way as you report from the front lines of this war. Ashkelon, as you very rightly pointed out, Shiv, is the capital of the receiving end of Hamas rockets, directly in the line of Hamas fire. While we were reporting from there, rockets would fall very, very frequently, and it gives you very little time, Shiv, to get out of harm's way. Because, when you're in Tel Aviv, it gives you about a minute and a half to run to a bomb shelter. Sderot and Ashkelon are so close to that Gaza Strip that rockets land there in 30 to 40 seconds. So do stay safe. Continue to report from very close to a bunker so that you can get out of harm's way as quickly as possible, Shiv, to be able to keep sending your reports. But Shiv, it's that body camera footage. We've seen some of it. Some more of it is now in public domain. And these are confessions of the Hamas terrorists who actually boast about the massacre of about 1,400 people in Israel. Tell us more, Shiv. You've seen some of this footage.
The horrors of Hamas are coming away in layers every single day. If anyone needed reminding about the barbarity of Hamas, here come some confessions. Here come some details of the modus operandi. There may be propaganda from Gaza about how Hamas says that all the claims being made about hostages taken, etc., are just claims being made by Israel. But you'll see in this report how Hamas paid terrorists and foot soldiers money, lots of money, depending on how many Israeli hostages they could actually take. These are chilling confessions from the horse's mouth. Watch this report.
Babies butchered on bed. Burnt alive. Shot in the head. Body parts cut off. Kids, women, elderly raped. Bones broken. Sickening details have emerged of how Hamas terrorists went about a barbaric assault on Israeli civilians, including infants, women, and the elderly. Unimaginable torture details have emerged from Israeli volunteers attending to women victims. Sickening revelations that say many were burnt alive, shot in the head, and body parts cut off. Kids and women were raped to the point that their bones were broken.
They were shot in the head, they were burnt alive, they were mutilated. We saw genitals cut off, heads cut off, babies, hands, feet. No reason. We saw also people shot in the head so many times, long after they were dead. We even saw them shot in the head after there was no more blood. There was no reason. This was just abject cruelty.
And there's reports about women being raped. Can you confirm this?
Yes, we have seen that women have been raped. Children through elderly women have been raped. Forcible entry to the point where bones were broken.
Captured Hamas terrorists made spine-chilling admissions, saying they were assigned the task of executing the men and take women and kids as hostage. Hamas promises terrorists a house and $10,000 each for every hostage.
I saw her on the floor, but did not get close to her. Her dog came out on the streets. I shot it afterwards. Someone was in the garden and I fired at him 2-3 shots in the chest. Then we started to walk around. There were 2 houses, I think. We set them on fire. The front door was closed. They shot at the door. We heard voices from inside. One was lying near the door. There was blood near him. There was an entire family and there were women and children. I used them as human shields.
And with nearly 200 hostages still in Hamas custody, Israel has decided to amplify the horrors of Hamas by releasing unedited footage of the October 7 Hamas attack taken from the death squad's body cameras.
As we work to defeat the terror organization that brutalized our people, we are witnessing a Holocaust denial-like phenomenon evolving in real time.
In this video from 7th October, released by the Israeli government, Hamas terrorists, all dressed in black, can be seen firing indiscriminately at a silver civilian car. As the car moves ahead, they continue to fire, till the driver is dead and crashes into another van. Gun-wielding terrorists then surround the car and check to ensure that the passenger is dead. Hamas terrorists went on a killing frenzy as the October 7th siege unfolded. This video shows Hamas seek out an injured elderly lady and gun her down. Will the horrifying revelations and chilling Hamas admission bolster Israel's stand in the war? Bureau Report, India Today.
Hamas has released 2 more hostages, 2 women, one 85 years old, a Holocaust survivor, the other 80 years old. While Hamas claims that the 2 women were released out of humanitarian grounds, on humanitarian grounds, out of the goodness of their heart, the Israeli Defense Forces disagree. They say Hamas also is under pressure because Israel's constantly pounding Hamas strongholds. But the question also remains, 4 have been released so far. What about more than 220 others? Now, this is one of the worst crises when it comes to hostages in Israel's history. Families, friends, citizens in Israel want their government to do a lot more. They want the US President Joe Biden, other world leaders to put a lot of pressure on Hamas so that the hostages are released as quickly and as safely as possible. All of that clearly easier said than done.
Hamas releases 2 more hostages. The Israeli women were freed after mediation by Qatar and Egypt. Nurit Cooper and Yocheved Lifshitz, both in their 80s, were taken hostage by Hamas from their homes in Kibbutz Nir Oz, Israel, during the terror attack on October 7. Hamas claimed it was releasing the hostages on humanitarian and health grounds.
While she was being taken, she was hit by sticks by Shabab. Yeah, Shabab people.
Though their husbands still remain in Hamas custody.
Let them stop this aggression and you will find the mediators like Qatar and some Arab countries like Egypt and others. They will find the way to have them released and we will send them to their families.
As they were released, one of the hostages shook hands with the Hamas fighter and called for peace. Tel Aviv said videos that show Hamas treating hostages well are part of mind games the terrorist outfit is playing.
Egypt plays a key role on the issue of the hostages and missing people. The efforts that it is putting into the issue are effective and appreciated. We are working with Egypt in the cooperation and are grateful for Egypt and the Red Cross for their work on this issue.
Israel has stressed there will be no ceasefire till all hostages are freed by Hamas. The United States has backed Israel's stand.
Should Israel, is the U.S. supporting the hostages for a ceasefire deal?
Why did you?
We should have a ceasefire. Not a ceasefire, we should have those hostages released. Then we can talk.
Hamas is still holding more than 200 innocent civilians as hostages, while Israel has intensified its bombardment of Gaza to exert more pressure on Hamas. Negotiations are happening alongside to obtain the freedom of hostages. Bureau Report, India Today.
Gaurav and I have reported hostage situations many times in the past in different places in the world, including in Kashmir. And I can tell you that Israel has always had a formidable, fearsome reputation for never negotiating with terrorists. You've probably heard of that reputation as well. But in 1972, that reputation really began. It was called Operation Wrath of God because of what happened to Israeli athletes at the 1972 Munich Olympics. They were murdered by militants and terrorists. And then Israel's formidable, much feared Mossad external intelligence agencies decided to take things into its own hands and hunt those killers down. Operation Wrath of God has gone into the books for all the right reasons. Take a look.
September 5, 1972. A darkest chapter unfolds in Olympic history. Members of the Israeli team taken hostage inside the Olympic village in Munich by Palestinian militants. 2 were shot dead almost immediately. Others were killed during a gun battle with West German police at a nearby airfield as the attackers tried to take them out of the country.
These guerrillas are a group called Black September. Members have automatic weapons on the hostages. The deal had been made. Now the Israelis disappear. Massive security forcing in front of it. The Arabs look like they're getting ready.
What followed was a vengeful aftermath of the murder of 11 Israeli athletes. Mossad, Israel's foreign intelligence agency, launched reprisal missions. Called Operation Wrath of God, the assassination campaign believed to have taken years. The perpetrators of the Munich massacre began to die mysteriously in months after Wrath of God was unleashed in 1972. In all, Mossad assassinated at least 11 people alleged to have been involved in the Munich atrocity. In 1976, Israeli commandos rescued 100 hostages, mostly Israeli, held by pro-Palestinian hijackers at Entebbe Airport in Uganda. About 200 elite troops ran out and stormed the airport building. And in a 35-minute battle that followed, 20 Ugandan soldiers and all 7 hijackers died along with the 3 hostages. But what unfolded on October 7, 2023 was unprecedented. A brazen incursion, killings and abductions on Israeli territory that took the country's military and its intelligence services by surprise. With Hamas claiming to be holding anywhere between 200 to 250 hostages in the Gaza Strip, densely populated and cramped, the trademark Israeli revenge would be better if served cold, and with a strategy that prevents the humanitarian crisis in the tiny enclave from compounding. Bureau Report, India Today.
After relentlessly pounding Hamas strongholds for the past 17 days and counting, this is day 18 of Israel's war on Hamas terror. Israeli tanks, armored personnel carriers, engineers, they've made shallow incursions. They've moved in. They've not only set a new Adam base or a new administrative base, but they're also going in deeper. One, to strike at the Hamas strongholds. 2, to gather intelligence about where the hostages could be, in a way denying more territory to Hamas terrorists. 30% of buildings in the Gaza Strip have been taken down. But a deeper incursion, that's easier said than done. India Today's Shiv Aroor now explains, and Shiv is there at Sderot and Ashkelon. He explains why these ground operations will be unlike anything in the past. The aim is to completely decimate Hamas leadership at the Gaza Strip.
One of Israel's most famous TV shows, often depicting commando-style incursions into the Gaza Strip, are coming true in the real conflict. While the world sits on tenterhooks ahead of an expected ground invasion of the 41-kilometer-long patch of Palestinian territory, Israel's special forces have already begun surgical attacks in northern Gaza. India Today has learned that Israel's ground invasion will be like nothing else it has done in the past. Let's take you step by step through how this is likely to play out. The Israeli Air Force on Monday struck 400 separate targets in northern Gaza, claiming to kill several military-style commanders of Hamas. With the Israeli One of Israel's most famous TV shows, often depicting commando-style incursions into the Gaza Strip, are coming true in the real conflict. While the world sits on tenterhooks ahead of an expected ground invasion of the 41-kilometer-long patch of Palestinian territory, Israel's special forces have already begun surgical attacks in northern Gaza. India Today has learned that Israel's ground invasion will be like nothing else it has done in the past. Let's take you step by step through how this is likely to play out. The Israeli Air Force on Monday struck 400 separate targets in northern Gaza, claiming to kill several military-style commanders of Hamas. With the Israeli fighters smashing target after target and depleting the ground alertness of the Hamas, the Israeli special forces received a brief window to move in. There is reason to believe that these special forces men will conduct lightning-fast, targeted strikes on Hamas operatives known to be hiding in civilian areas that the Israeli Air Force does not want to risk bombing. But it isn't just the commandos in action. Israel's formidable armored strength, a vast fleet of Merkava tanks and infantry vehicles also have their engines on, making tracks at Gaza's doorstep.
A limited ground offensive has already begun. But before that, I want to tell you that the last 24 hours have been among the most aggressive so far in this particular crisis. Israel Defense Forces, who I'm in touch with, say that they've struck 400 Hamas targets in the Gaza Strip in just the last 24 hours. They not only targeted rocket positions, but also an escape tunnel that was going towards the sea. Meanwhile, Israeli Defense Forces have entered the Gaza Strip in a small way with some tanks ready for an imminent invasion that the world is on tenterhooks about.
While official information is typically scant on specifics, it is safe to say that at least some tanks have already rolled into Gaza, though they remain at distance from the Gaza city, the first big urban center on the Strip when approached from the north. More tanks could roll in soon. India Today's reporters in southern Israel have found Israel's artillery regiments in non-stop practice firing mode, with shells likely to soon be aimed into Gaza. But Israel's enemy isn't to be taken lightly. Despite 18 days and thousands of bombs dropped, the Hamas continues to have the capacity to hit back. On Sunday, Hamas terrorists fired an anti-tank missile at an Israeli position, killing a young soldier. While Hamas anti-tank positions will prove a major challenge, with reason to believe that the group is still receiving arms from Iran, the big new threat that faces the Israeli army is armed drones. Hamas has demonstrated its ISIS-like use of grenade-dropping drones, which, if deployed in numbers, could devastate elements of the Israeli ground operation. Israel knows well that such a complex mission cannot be conducted only by tanks, and even those are at risk from missiles and mines. Under all of this is a vast network of Hamas tunnels that continue to largely be out of reach of Israeli strikes, possibly allowing Hamas to maintain a minimum capability even if its overground strength is decimated in the ongoing attacks. American intelligence via the CIA and military assets from the USS Gerald Ford aircraft carrier battle group are also lending a hand with airborne and ground intelligence for a prospective Israeli operation in Gaza. The biggest phase of this war may be dead ahead. With Shiv Aroor on the Israel-Gaza frontline, Bureau Report, India Today.
Number of rockets had actually landed. I've just found this small group of very young Israeli youth who are here. They've all returned to Ashkelon now, which appears to be safe for the moment. They're very happy. They're dancing. They've got big smiles on their face. Mai here is the oldest among them. Mai, were you here on October 7th when the rockets were landing? Tell us what happened. Speak a little loudly.
We was in home, okay, and we hear the rockets coming, and we going to Mamad, safe place, and we're very afraid, but we live here. We're not gonna to live.
So when did you come back here? Did you go away and come back here?
No, we stay here.
There are rockets landing every day, rocket sirens happening every day here.
Yes. Now no, only one rocket in day, but before a week ago, we very afraid. I almost died in Friday, last Friday. Me and him. We go and we be inside, and the rockets coming, and we see them very close. And this man is with the rocket. This one here. Touch in his house, and the building is full.
So how do you feel living in a city where rockets can hit you at any time? How does it feel? You guys are all young people. You're all growing up over here.
We're afraid and I can do nothing. I just want peace.
What do you think is going to happen now? There's going to be, you're very young. I don't want to ask you too many complicated questions, but, I've just come from South Israel and other places, and they say that the army is going to move in there as well. How do you feel about that?
I don't know. I just want to know this fight is over.
How old are you?
17.
So you are so young that maybe you have not even seen the Israel. Guys, this is serious. Please. We're working here. This is serious.
Stop!
Let's not joke around. Okay. You're probably too young to even know the beginning of this entire Israel-Palestine fight.
Yes.
As a young Israeli, what are your hopes and dreams? You want peace?
Yes.
You want to be able to live in peace here? Tell us about that.
I want to live here all my life in peace, in quiet. I don't want fights. I don't want to kill people. I don't want this. I just want, how call this? Wait.
What? Yeah. I hear what you're saying. Do you want to join the army when you grow up, or you want to do something else?
I want to go to army and fight with them because this is my country.
Yeah.
I don't have a place other to go. So I want to fight. If I die to my country.
Okay. I hope you don't have to do that, Mai. I hope you don't have to, you can most certainly join the army, but I hope you don't have to fight. I hope by the time you are older, and all of these kids are older, and remember, all of these kids are playing around. They're young Israelis, okay? They want peace. They want a country where they can live in peace, where they don't have to worry about their lives, where they can, play with their bikes, where they can, enjoy this beautiful city of Ashkelon, this beautiful Mediterranean Sea, and not have to worry about where that next rocket is going to land. That's what young Israelis really want, and I think what Mai said really says it best. I want peace, I want space to fulfill my dreams, and I'll join the army, but I hope I never have to fight. Thanks guys for speaking. In Ashkelon, Israel, Shiv Aroor for India Today.
Shiv Aroor continues to report from Ground Zero, and India Today's team of reporters, we will get you a 360-degree perspective on Israel's war on Hamas terror. Will it widen across the region? Will more countries get involved? The United States constantly in touch with the leadership in Israel.
One of the most visible features of the Israel military, and it takes you just a few minutes in Israel to see it, is the sheer number of women personnel, women soldiers in all combat arms. They've got women fighter pilots, they've got women with weapons on the front line, and a special women's battalion in this particular war has already killed up to 100 Hamas terrorists. And they're just getting started. What's this report?
War kills indiscriminately. It requires soldiers, caregivers, and chroniclers. Women of Israel and Palestine are conflict veterans. As soon as the war broke out after the horrific terror attacks of Hamas, they joined the rank in all capacities. Moriah Menser is a former Israel Defense Force soldier. This 21-year-old British-Israeli flew home to fight against Hamas after one of her friends was murdered in the Hamas attack.
Our friends are in very unfortunate situations. Some of my friends are missing. I've just found out that one of my friends had been murdered in her home 2 days ago. So we got the first flight we could. Our flight's been delayed because apparently there's been shooting at National Airport. That's the situation.
Ella Wawea is famous as Captain Ella. That's her social media handle. She is the first Muslim Arab woman to publicly become a major in the IDF.
هجمات حماس العدائية الأخيرة على دولة إسرائيل ما أظهرت حجم إرهابها ووحشيتها وقساوتها اللي فاقت داعش وأتباعها. هذول هن أبطالنا.
Officer Ella shares updates on her personal as well as IDF's Instagram handle about the ongoing conflict in Gaza, along with a message of unity for the success of Israel.
Hello everyone, it's around 4 p.m. here in Gaza. The situation is just getting worse. There are literally no words to describe what's happening. No electricity, no water, no internet. Like almost 90% of Gaza, they don't have connection. We can't even call each other.
Plestia Al-Akkad is a journalist from Palestine based in Gaza. She has been using her phone to document the widespread devastation all around her and has been sharing how life has become since the Israel-Hamas war started on 7th October.
They can't even recognize the streets right now. We try to cover a certain area, but like the car, it can't enter inside. Anything may bomb at any minute, so it's really difficult.
23-year-old Mickey Dubre emigrated to Tel Aviv from the US 2 years ago. Today she is reporting from the war front, chronicling survival stories and giving a first-hand war report to international news organizations.
It's unfathomable what's happening here. It's barbaric. I'm scared, but I'm also trying to be strong. The last couple of years I've been in, I think, 2 or 3 instances where there's been a few days of rockets. This is nothing like what I've experienced. The rockets are intense. Look, no one wants to go through that.
A bubbly couple till a few days ago, Zohar and Liron miraculously survived the tragic Supernova Music Festival massacre in southern Israel on 7th October. Soon after, they both joined, responding to their call for reserve duty in the Combat Engineering Corps Reserve Battalion of IDF. They're out there doing their bit to protect and defend their friends, family, and community. All female battalions are now in the front line. Female IDF combat soldiers took out nearly 100 Hamas terrorists on October 7th, and their commander has hailed her battalion, saying they have silenced all doubters about female combat soldiers with their life-saving actions. Bureau Report, India Today.
Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, is in Israel today, and in many ways he represents the international dilemma over Israel. On the one hand, compulsions for solidarity with the Jewish state that is galvanized and grieving, and on the other hand, domestic compulsions and a huge Arab immigrant population that has its own pulls and pressures. How is he navigating it, and how does that reflect the huge divisions of the entire international order just from this one crisis? Watch this report.
French President Emmanuel Macron is in Israel amid the military offensive launched by the Israeli forces in the Gaza Strip, weeks after deadly attacks launched by the Hamas.
Let me express once again my solidarity, my friendship, and the fact that France stands with you in this awful terrorist act you had to experience. We are with your people.
The French president vowed not to leave Israel isolated in its fight against Islamic militants, but warned against the risk of a regional conflict as he arrived in Israel. Apart from his meetings with President Isaac Herzog, Prime Minister Netanyahu and other Israeli officials, he also met with families of French victims at Tel Aviv airport. Macron is in Tel Aviv with a few set objectives. Top of the agenda is to deal with the hostage crisis.
This fight against terrorism is obviously a matter of existence for Israel, but it's a matter of existence for all of us. This is why we discussed together, and I just reminded this issue, but I consider that this is an international coalition in order to fight against these terrorist groups that we have to build. I just reminded my people in my language what we discussed about fight against terrorism, humanitarian action, rules to be respected, but as well political process. And obviously I warned against any escalation, and I want Hezbollah and some other regimes not to be part of what's happening.
But there's no going around the fact that we must have a decisive victory against Hamas. If Hezbollah makes the mistake of joining this war in a significant way, it will regret it. They will long for the second Lebanon war, which they regretted.
The two leaders also discussed the issue of terrorism and the need to fight it together as also the next course of action for Israel.
Jamais, depuis l'attentat de Nice en 2016.
Macron is in Tel Aviv even as there are massive protests being held in France in support of the Palestinian cause and against Israeli bombardment and blockade since October 7 of Gaza, called Operation Swords of Iron. A ban has been imposed on pro-Palestine demonstrations in France. The order came as French police were seen using tear gas and water cannons to disperse at least hundreds of pro-Palestinian demonstrators in Paris. President Macron has urged restraint to the country's Muslims and Jews in a national address in Paris. France, traditionally an advocate of the Palestinian cause, is now doing a balance act to cater to its own Western allies. Macron's ability to influence events in the region appears limited, with a shift towards a more pro-Israel Anglo-American line, in contrast with the traditionally distinctive and more pro-Arab French approach. Macron's visit comes after European Union foreign ministers on Monday struggled to agree on a call for a humanitarian pause to allow much more aid to reach civilians. Mahmoud Abbas' office said Macron would meet with the Palestinian leader in Ramallah in West Bank. With Geeta Mohan, Bureau Report, India Today.
On India Today, we are getting you a 360-degree perspective of Israel's war on Hamas terror. We've been getting you ground reports from the Gaza Strip. We've been getting you reports from Lebanon, from the northern borders of Israel, and also from the West Bank. I traveled to the West Bank earlier. Shiv Aroor is in the West Bank, was at Bethlehem, and this is a place where thousands and thousands of tourists, Christian pilgrims, they would assemble. But the holiest shrine for Christianity, this bustling pilgrim town, is today a ghost town. India Today's Shiv Aroor with this report from Bethlehem.
10 kilometers south of Jerusalem, under Palestinian Authority, is the city of Bethlehem in West Bank. The birthplace of Jesus Christ, this is the holiest Christian site in the world. As the Israel-Hamas war escalates, India Today traveled from Tel Aviv to Bethlehem.
Millions of people know this, but millions of people definitely don't. Where I'm reporting from today is in the West Bank. This is Palestinian territory. The city is Bethlehem, which may be a name familiar to you. It certainly is to millions of Christians all around the world, because this city on Palestinian soil is the birthplace of Jesus Christ.
A bustling pilgrim site, Bethlehem now resembles a ghost town.
This is entirely Palestinian territory. The city of Bethlehem, is an ancient city. This is the Church of Nativity, where Jesus Christ was born. So this is the holiest of sites as far as Christians are concerned. We're told that thousands upon thousands of people throng here every single day. At this time of year, which is just ahead of the Christmas season especially, people come from all over the world, to go into the Church of Nativity. But as you can see, it's completely empty right now. And all of the people we've been speaking to here, Palestinians, locals and others, a stray number of visitors, they all say that, this is extremely sad, but the safety of people usually trumps, devotion and religiosity. And that's the reason why at this time people have decided to go. Just a few days before October the 7th, this entire square was completely full of people. I'm told there wasn't even room to move here on a usual day, and especially before the Christmas season.
Since at least the 2nd century AD, people have believed that the place where the Church of the Nativity now stands is where Jesus was born. 2 months before Christmas, an eerie silence looms over the Church of the Nativity.
Usually you're saying that this square, Jose, this square which I see around me, you're saying this is completely full of people.
Full of people, and it was, even we don't get a parking space here because of the tourists coming to Bethlehem for the pilgrimage. So visit the Nativity Church, where is the birthplace of Jesus Christ.
The silence is broken by the sounds of protests on the streets. Bethlehem relies heavily on tourism, and the escalation on the borders is taking a toll on the locals here.
We were reporting from Jenin earlier today. There was an airstrike there. We do know there have been casualties in different parts of the West Bank. Are people here insulated from that, or are they also affected?
People in Bethlehem is also affected because there is no tourism. Bethlehem depends completely on tourism.
Yeah.
So most of the restaurants is closed in Bethlehem. People don't go for shopping much.
Yeah.
And the prices of the vegetables and meat, everything has gone up.
Yeah.
So people are not spending any money and they're sitting at home.
Bethlehem in West Bank has witnessed several conflicts in the past and has remained untouched till now.
Usually, before also all the wars I was here, and religious places is not affected, and there is no any missile attack on the religious places. So tourists are 100% safe when they come to visit the religious places in Israel.
And there's a message that also goes out, to tourists and pilgrims. Thank you, Jose, for speaking to us. about places of worship. And I can tell you that I've been reporting through the West Bank today, and it is positively peppered with sites of religious importance to Christians, to Muslims. People come from all over the world. The Al-Aqsa Mosque that's there in Jerusalem, that has been the center of the Israel-Palestine conflict as well. But it is pretty saddening. And if you especially compare this particular courtyard in front of the Church of Nativity, the birthplace of Jesus Christ, with how it usually is, this is a very sad tale. But that's how it goes. That's what that is the impact of conflict. 2 months before Christmas, if the Church of Nativity has no lines, no sea of humanity waiting to get in there to see baby Jesus, then that tells you everything you really need to know about the nature of conflict and the nature of war. Shiv Aroor in Bethlehem in the Palestinian territories in the West Bank for India Today.
The situation remains grim. It's likely to take a turn for the worse in the days and weeks ahead. The United States constantly in touch with Israel. Shiv Aroor will continue to report from Ground Zero. Shiv, stay safe. To all our viewers, many thanks for watching. News and updates continue on India Today. Stay with us.